Coach Baker. What would you grade it? What would you grade Coach Baker's defensive calling, or him as a defensive coordinator? Because a lot of people's calling for his head. Um, I honestly, I like when Manny's calling the defense, but obviously, I don't know who's. I mean, I assume Coach Blake Baker's calling the defense. It's his defense, but maybe Manny has a hand in it. Maybe he doesn't. This or that. No one knows tick for tat, but I just feel like there's a lot of times where I look and, Quincy Roche's out of position. Al Blaze isn't being physical enough, which I thought Al Blaze ended up having a good game, interception. To Corey Couch was just a split off. I think it's easy to go at Coach Baker like a lot of people were, but a lot of times it just seems like our guys weren't making plays. And trust me, I've been on Coach Blake Baker's head. I mean, go back last year when North Carolina, when we ran that crazy blitz or that dropping Russo back in coverage. I've always been on his head. But as far as this season, I just think we aren't making plays defensively. What are your thoughts on Coach Baker and his job as a defensive coordinator?
Well, I think the big thing, like you said, is that you never know exactly how much of it is Blake and how much of it is Manny, because so much like Baker's trying to run like a version of Manny's defense pretty much. And like, I think if there's one really big difference between the two of them is what the defensive line does, because I don't think either of them really love to send a lot of blitzers. If there's one thing about Baker's defense that I cannot stand, and I guess there's two things then, but the one thing that stands out to me is that when he sends some blitzers from the secondary, from the linebackers, he doesn't have them walk up. They blitz from a distance. They blitz from the second level. They blitz from way far outside. And I just, as like on a fundamental level, in terms of understanding like defensive philosophy, it just seemed that it just takes too long to develop and offers up too many easy throws. That's one thing. And then the other thing is having your corners play up tight and press coverage without actually putting hands on receivers. Those are just two things that always just kind of like stood out to me as not really making a lot of sense. But overall, I mean, you have the other team on the field for 38 minutes. A couple of your guys make mistakes here and there. It happens, especially when you score 47 points. That means you're kicking the ball off the other team quite a bit. They're probably going to get a chance to score as well. So it could have been better for sure. I'm not ready to, fire him after this game. I think if there are games where we didn't respond as well, then the discourse will be a lot more hectic. But I don't think this is the one where you're like, oh yeah, get rid of him, it's over. I just think there's a couple things they could definitely clean up, and I think that some conversations with his younger players, like you said, that Corey Couch play, like that was really good coverage by Corey Couch. The receiver just made a great play on the ball, even with one hand at one point making the catch. So it kind of is what it is in a couple different spots. But I mean, I think overall just has to figure out a way to utilize his defensive lineman and his momentary aggressiveness without leading to greater issues behind it.
All right, give me your defensive MVP and then somebody you've got to see step up.
Phillips, defensive MVP for sure, 100%. And if it wasn't going to be Phillips, because I think that's just easy because he was so good, I go Bolden, because Bolden made a lot of open field tackles, and Bolden had a lot put on his plate with, trying to keep up with Tutu for as much as he had to. And that's really not what he should be used for, because it's not what you want a safety to have to do. But he made a lot of open field tackles, and he seems to have that kind of like that old school Kane kind of swagger. And, when he hits you, like he gets up, he immediately talks to you about what he just did. I like that. And I like that in a guy who's making big plays. As far as guys that need to step up, just a linebacker. give me one linebacker who can be sideline to sideline, be consistent, make plays. Like, I don't need a guy that's going to be in the Hall of Fame. Like, we have enough of those at linebacker in our history. I just need a guy like, just think back over you can give me a Colin McCarthy level player, like not a guy who's even maybe like third team all ACC, but a guy we can trust. Like, you give me Colin McCarthy, or even like late career Darryl Sharpton, or late career Glenn Cook. Like, I'll take any of those guys. I just can't have guys out there making mistakes every single time and being slow to the ball. Like, we can't have that at Miami.
All right. Let's see. I like those two. I like that Phillips in the linebacking core. Let me ask you this, man. What position is Amari Carter? Like what position do you think Amari Carter is the best at? Because I don't know. Because sometimes I think he's too slow to play safety. Is he big enough to play linebacker? Should they put him at striker? This is something that I think a lot. But one thing after tonight, after he almost got his a millionth targeting call, I love having him on the field because one, Amari is very smart how he attacks people. Like, a lot of people say, oh, he almost got a targeting call again, but he always leads with his shoulder. He's just very good at that. And I think just because Manny and the coaching staff has taught him that from day one, and he did a good job of listening and applying, but he gives us that enforcer. Like sometimes tonight, I'm going to give you my train of thought. I just felt like there wasn't anybody who this Louisville offense was afraid of. I think the quarterback was running for his life. But the receivers, the running backs, they just felt like, okay. But when Amari Carter was in the facility, you knew something was going down. What do you think about where should Amari Carter play? And what do you think about him on the defensive side of the ball?
Well, I think that he probably should have moved up to more of a linebacker role earlier in his career. Probably, right? And I say probably because I don't know like how that would have worked out. Like who knows, right? I think right now for where he is and what he's been, I think you have him as a third safety that, like you said, you bring him onto the field, you know what he's going to do. He can come up, he can hit people. Like if there's a run on the inside and the guy in the line, running back breaks through the first two levels of defense, he's not afraid to come forward and make a play and make a hit. He can get some momentum going. So in that way, he's not a bad rotational piece to have. I think it could work out. If it were 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, then maybe you move him up to linebacker. And the more I think about him at striker, they do so much with that striker position that I don't know if he would really be the greatest fit as much as we thought it was anymore. Especially where I think next year when you have a James Williams and a Chase Smith and those guys coming in, like they're more, I think, where the striker position is going. Like even Romeo Finley was more like those guys where he was a linebacker, but at the same time, like he came from that safety tradition, but he was really good in space. I think Amari, you let him just kind of be the tone setter on the back end and, be a leader and, hype guys up and come in and make a big play here and there, and stick him and keep him with that. And, who knows, maybe he could be a special teamer down the line in the NFL where he'll probably fit better schematically because I think in the NFL level, they'll know for sure he's a linebacker from day one and they'll never even try to make safety work out personally.